Welcome to Financial Confidence for High-Achieving Women, the go-to podcast for women of color entrepreneurs overwhelmed by their finances and ready to transform their money mindset, take control of their money, and build sustainable wealth. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money, certified financial coach and CEO of Money Honey LLC. I believe that abundance is your birthright and that good money management doesn't mean cutting out the joy from your life. Stick around to learn how you can build intentional money habits that align with your biggest lifestyle goals. Let's get into today's episode. Welcome to episode 34 of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I'm your host, Taryn, better known as T-Money. And in one of my earliest episodes, we talked about whether you should save or pay off debt first. And I shared the technical factors that help you decide. But today, I want to talk about the part nobody really addresses, why this decision feels so emotionally charged that you end up stuck, second-guessing yourself, or doing nothing at all. If you've ever felt torn between wanting to be debt-free and needing to feel safe with savings, this episode is for you. We're breaking down why this conflict happens, how survival mode plays into it, and the practical strategy I teach my clients so they can build savings and pay down debt at the same damn time without burning out. And if you want help creating this balance based on your actual income, debt, and emotional capacity, that's exactly what we do in the Wealth Alignment Assessment. We build a plan that supports both your financial goals and your nervous system. The link is in the show notes. So first, Happy New Year again. I'm one of those people, I say it all January, and then, after that, I stop saying it just because, sometimes you don't see everybody in the first couple weeks. So you gotta do what you need to do. But anyways, let's get into the fun of the episode. So one, the conflict isn't about math, it's about safety. So in episode 4, we talked about what to prioritize first depending on your situation and how you're feeling about both. But today, I want to talk about why this decision feels emotionally impossible for so many women. So there's this internal tug of war going on. Debt usually includes pressure, urgency, shame, even depending on how you're feeling about it. And then savings often is safety, control, peace of mind. And so when you're choosing one, it feels like you're abandoning the other. And then, of course, that high achiever part of it is that, we love to optimize. And so we also want the best answer, right? When we're thinking about this, which one is the best? And this other thing that I love to repeat in my own life and to clients is that perfectionism freezes action. You end up in that space of overanalysis and there's paralysis. So if you grew up with financial instability, your nervous system will always prioritize safety over efficiency. The next thing that I want to talk about is why extreme strategies usually backfire. So let's get into both sides of this, right? If you are only paying off debt, then there's no buffer available. So then your emergencies can end up going back onto your credit cards. And that is discouraging because it also means that you're more likely to relapse into accumulating, in this case, like high interest consumer debt or credit card debt. And that can really create that emotional exhaustion. You don't even feel like continuing with your plan because now you've fallen, 5 steps back. And that is what we want to avoid, okay? And if you're only saving, then your debt interest compounds. And especially if you're dealing with a high interest type, then it's really just continuing to grow exponentially. Then there's the guilt and avoidance that's also building at the same time as a result of that. And your progress feels invisible because while you're accumulating money in your savings account, you still see the debt continue to rise or, if anything, stay the same relatively as well. And this can often kind of contribute to those survival type patterns, the all or nothing thinking, meaning like I'm going to pour all of my energy into paying off debt or pour all of my energy into saving. And, I have to do one first before I do the other. The other thing that can show up is fear-based decision making. So if you are afraid of accumulating more debt, then you might want to pay that down as soon as possible, or you might feel like you need to, get your savings up for that reason, or maybe you're afraid that if something happens, you don't have the money available. And so you can kind of hear how that can be very confusing and how that can cause some anxiety and in turn some fear. Then you're making a decision on which one based off of what you don't want to lose, instead of also considering what you might gain by doing one or the other. And then that usually leads to another favorite, which is I'll start once things feel safer. But the truth is safety never fully arrives because you're in that space of constantly trying to figure something out. And therefore there's not that stability that helps you to feel safe. Your brain isn't sabotaging you, it's trying to protect you. That's why these fear-based thoughts come up. And that's why we feel like we have to start once things feel better, quote unquote. Or that's how we end up in that all or nothing. It's because your brain is trying to protect you by possibly even doing what is familiar. And let's get into the dual track strategy. And so this is how you can build safety while making progress. I know us high achievers love some steps. So I wanted to make sure I include a breakdown for a practical approach for you. So step 1, your peace of mind fund first. Now, this is not a full emergency fund yet. So I don't want you to think that we're doing that all or nothing thing that we just talked about. This is where you would save maybe $1,000 to $3,000 or 1 month of expenses. And the goal here is to stop the panic and stop new debt. Okay, so by having at least a little bit available, if you do face some sort of emergency that you need to tap into this for, I would say in most cases, 1 to 3,000 will cover it. I would say even like 2,000 is a great sweet spot, depending on what's happening in your life. And you know your life best. Step 2, increase your debt payment by $200 or more. Okay, so if you haven't already created a debt payoff plan, that's the first step. And I walk you through that in my Break Free from Debt Bootcamp. So I'll link that in the show notes if you want to get that first to set it up. Now, once you have your plan, whichever debt you're focusing on paying down first is the one that you'll add $200 or more, depending on what works for you, to the minimum payment. So the payment that you're making each month on that debt you're focusing on first. Okay, so why $200? And this is because I've found that this can make a significant difference in how long you're paying off your balance without completely upending your lifestyle. With all the clients I've worked with, we're easily able to find $200 to reallocate in their budget, or even just $200 that they didn't know they had just sitting there available. And so this allows you to do a little bit of both, right? You're accumulating some savings and you're paying the debt off much faster. Now, if you want to add more than $200 to that payment, that is even better. And remember to get that on auto pay. So we want to make sure that you're not having to think about it or set up that payment each month. Whatever that amount is with that $200 added on, that's what you want to schedule as your regular payment for that card or loan, whatever it may be. Step 3 is split your extra money. So this can be customized by your own nervous system and numbers. All right. So some examples of this is for when you receive extra money. Okay. And so that could be that you decide to pay 70% towards your debt, 30% towards savings. It could be a 50-50 split. You could adjust it based off of the season, or if you are somebody where you're an entrepreneur and your business has specific like high and low seasons and things like that, you can separate it that way. Another way that I like to separate it when it's a windfall is to add a 10% in there for fun so that you can spend that however you want to. So maybe that would look like, 60% debt, 30% savings, and 10% fun, just for an example. So that's step 3. Step 4, reassess every 60 to 90 days. So as safety increases, because you have that peace of mind in place, that peace of mind fund in place, and you have money that's starting to pay off that debt, you can start to put even more money towards the high interest debt in particular, to get that to go down. And then we can also start to allocate some to investing after we at least have the minimal peace of mind fund in place. And I would say even a little bit more than that, we would want to get some investing in. Now, of course, this is when I say everybody's situation is different. And so if you're reassessing and you want support in that, connecting with a financial coach like myself can be very helpful. Step 5. This one is an emotional checkpoint. And so I want you to then ask yourself in that same assessment, do I feel safer than I did 3 months ago? Am I staying consistent instead of starting over? And this is just a good time to check in and see how it's really going. So that way you can make those adjustments. Sometimes I think we forget this mindset aspect by just saying like, let me look at the numbers and not really seeing what's under the numbers. So getting an understanding of, why you may have had those delays, why you may feel like you need to start over, so on and so forth. So wealth is built through sustainability, not punish. Okay. We want to get it into a place where your systems, like wealth is really built through systems, and doing those consistently. And the more that you do punish yourself and, increase that guilt and that shame, the longer it's going to take you to get to that space you want to be at when it comes to your finances. So let's recap. Today, we talked about why the save versus debt debate isn't really about money. It's about safety, fear, and past experiences. We also covered why extreme strategies usually lead to burnout and how a dual track approach lets you move forward without sacrificing your peace. Now, for your action step. Now, this one, look, in 2026, we got a little bit of a thicker action step, okay, to kick us off. So there's a few parts to this one. So the first thing is decide your peace of mind fund target. So 1 month of expenses or like the $1,000 to $3,000 minimum that we just talked about. Next, schedule your new minimum payment for the debt you're focused on. So we just talked about adding that $200. And then I want you to make sure you schedule that and set up that with it so you don't have to be mentally thinking about it all the time. Next, choose a split strategy for your extra money this month. So any extra money that you receive, and, we are abundant people, especially in my space. And so, when you receive that extra money, let's have a strategy for it. And lastly, on your action steps, put a 60-day check-in on your calendar. Okay, so we're not just going to talk about it. We're going to be about it. Put the 60-day check-in on your calendar to adjust instead of abandoning the plan. Okay, so we want to make sure we schedule that in to revisit. If you want a strategy that works with your real life instead of against it, book a wealth alignment assessment with me, and we'll look at your numbers, your habits, and your fears and build a plan that actually feels doable. And so if you are going through these things in the episode and you're like, I need support in setting this up or in my check-ins, whatever it is, make sure you're scheduling that wealth alignment assessment. The link is in the show notes. And next week, we'll talk about financial wellness, what it is, and what it means for you. And so with that, I'll catch you on the next episode. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Financial Confidence for High Achieving Women podcast. I hope the insights shared in this episode have inspired you to take one small action step toward a more empowered relationship with money. If you're ready to take control of your finances like the rich bitch you are, I invite you to book a 90-minute Organize Your Money Honey Intensive with me. You'll walk away with a crystal clear financial plan, a budget you'll actually stick to, and actionable steps to start saving and investing faster. Head to the link in the show notes to book your spot. I'm so grateful to be part of your financial journey, and I can't wait to see all the incredible moves you'll make. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch you in the next episode.